Hey, what's up, guys? So I'm going to show you guys how to install a shock sensor on a 2012 Nissan Maxima. I bought this shock sensor off of Amazon for about $8-9, and then I also bought a relay from my local AutoZone for about $8 or $9. I didn't want to get a Viper alarm or anything like that because honestly, the installation on those are pretty. It looks pretty hard. I mean, there's a lot of wires you have to cut into. And I didn't want to pay someone to do because honestly, I can't justify spending 300 or 400 bucks just to get an alarm installed. And the alarm itself is fairly cheap, but the labor itself is expensive. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually utilize this little trigger wires behind this little door trigger here, and you only have to take off one screw. Once you take that off, it pulls right out. I am going to show you guys how I tapped into that wire, and I am going to also show you guys how to set up the relay. Okay, so here's the shock sensor, and we are wiring actually two wires to the relay, the black and the red, and then the blue wire to the door trigger. As you can see, it's not really connected to anything, it's just hanging loose right there. And we're going to run this to the door trigger. The positive and negative is going to go into this relay right here, and I will post a diagram here shortly so that way you guys can follow it. Okay, so I got done cleaning it up a little bit. Um, Pretty much I use electrical tape and wrapped it around. So the wire is tied in together, and there isn't any slack where it would cause. I don't know, if I were to accidentally yank it up, by accident, it wouldn't disconnect any of the cables. So I also labeled the wires. Here's the constant 12-volt line. This is actually red with a little black mark. This is the ignition line, and here is the black ground line, and then and here is the long remote cable that will be running through the door to trigger it off. So um, doesn't look that great, but it will do the job. So all right. So once you have the relay wired up to the sensor, what you're going to want to do is open the driver's side door. Um, and then there is a sensor right here that you're going to have to take off. Um, it uses a Allen key, so just unscrew that one screw, pull it out, and then there's a little harness back here. If you push this in, you should be able to pull it out. Makes it a lot easier to splice into the wire. I went ahead and spliced my wire up, but you can actually use a wire tap. And then once that's done, you can drop a line down here. Pretty much keep on pushing the line down until it hits the bottom of the floor. And then once it hits the bottom of the floor, you can use your hand and then pull it through. And then what you're going to want to do is line up the cable, tuck it underneath the trim here, and then run it all the way up around your fuse box. And for my setup, I actually have my relay mounted to the top right here, and then I ran a fuse tap for the constant power, which is right here. Not sure if I'm pointing it to the right place or not. Right there. and then another fuse tab for the ignition power. And then for the negative cable, I actually ground it to a bolt, which is right behind the pedals. I grounded it to that bolt right there. So here, I'll point to it right there. That bolt right there. And then, as far as the sensor, I went ahead and just mounted to the side, right underneath the dash where the foot pedal is. So make sure you adjust your sensitivity.